you. Yo, 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 what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another C19 report. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking, all right? So shout out to everybody who is watching on YouTube. If you guys haven't smashed that like button, make sure you guys smash that like button. Shout out to the people watching on Rumble, and shout out to the people who are watching on Twitch. All right, we're gonna give some acknowledgments real quick. If you guys can hear the mic okay and everything sounds good and looks good on the screen, let me know with a thumbs up or a radiation emoji in the chat. If you guys are having a difficult time hearing me, the microphone doesn't sound as good as usual, or the graphics on the screen are distorted, please let me know with a thumbs down or an angry face. All right. So let's see who we got up in the building already. We got Carlton Way up in here. We got Jada Informant in the house. We got Kelly Goodman. We got my man Terrence Jackson. We got Emmanuel Carey in the building. Shout out to everybody who is here. All right. Let me see what we got over on Rumble. All right. Shout out to, we got now 3 people watching on Rumble. Shout out to the 3 people watching on Rumble. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what Carlton was talking about in the comment section. Big Pharma made a lot of money off the C19 grift. Shout out to my man Lunch. What's good with it? Yo, I wish I could make money like that C19 grift. The C19 is the real grift lamats. You know what I'm saying? They are the real grift lamats. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this article that AP, Associated Press, I think Professor Black Truth calls them Aryan Press, put out. But this is it right here. They've even called this the Great Grift. Okay? The Great Grift. So now they're putting articles titled The Great Grift in the mainstream media when it comes to talking about C19 and a lot of the money that came out. Shout out to my man Torian Rain. Yeah, this is the second live stream I did today, bro. I'm about to do marathon streams all night. You know what I'm saying? Torian said, do I want to go find the submarine? Nah, You talking about that one that went down, the Titanic? From what I understand, those people paid about $250 a pop for a ticket. So I guess they got the deep sea exploration that they paid for. Sounds like an episode of Tales from the Crypt, doesn't it? So now here it says fraudsters used the social security numbers of dead people and federal prisoners to get unemployment checks. We start off with some interesting stuff. So, I mean, like when it came to this C19 money grab, I mean, people were racking it up, macking it up, making dough. This was one of the biggest handouts in American history. One of the biggest handouts in American history. And what's interesting is people were sitting up there talking about, give me some more. You know what I'm saying? Cheaters collected those benefits in multiple states, and federal loan applicants were not cross-checked against the Treasury Department database that would have raised red flags about sketchy borrowers. So now my question is, why were the criteria so laxed when it came to handing out money for C19? Why were they so laxed? See, that's the question. Look at this. Criminals and gangs grab the money. Like who? Now, I know if you guys follow the C19 channel, there's a story on here about a priest from Canada who got in on the money grab. But I don't know who the criminals and gang members are. Carlton said, does my stimulus check count as a grift? I think you probably got yours legit. So yours probably technically ain't really a grift. But this right here, yeah. What they talking about right here? Yeah, this is a grift. Now, my question is, who do you all think got the majority of this money? Criminals and gangs grabbed the money, but so did a U.S. soldier in Georgia, the pastors of a defunct church in Texas, a former state lawmaker in Missouri, and a roofing contractor in Montana. You guys hear my Ohio accent? A roofing contract. All of it led to the greatest grift in U.S. history. Everybody put some first place ribbons in the chat. This is the greatest grift in American history. Now, mind you, this is coming from Associated Press saying this. Not my words, Associated Press. Tara said, I thought it was going to be white women. Nah, that would be the affirmative action grift. You know what I'm saying? That would be feminism and the affirmative action grift. All of it led to the greatest grift in U.S. history, with thieves plundering billions of dollars in federal C19 aid intended to combat the worst pandemic in a century and to stabilize an economy in the free fall. So congratulations to C19. It has created the biggest grift in American history. An Associated Press analysis found that fraudsters potentially stole. Are you guys ready? Listen to this. An Associated Press analysis found that fraudsters potentially stole more than $280 billion in C19 relief funding. Another $123 billion was wasted or misspent. Combined, the loss represents 10% of the $4.2 trillion that the United States government has so far dispersed in C19 relief aid. They'd rather waste this money than do what with it? They'd rather burn these dollars up. They'd rather flush them down the toilet than do what with it? Instead, let me ask you guys a question. Instead of burning up and flushing $4.2 trillion down the toilet, what could the United States have done with that money? Y'all know. What could the United States have done with that money? And real quick, shout out to the 7 people watching on Rumble. We're trying to get a goal of 10 likes per video. So if everybody can smash the like button, hit the follow button, and share the stream out, that'd be great. And shout out to the people watching on YouTube. If you guys haven't hit that like button and shared the video to your social media, make sure that you guys do that for me. How many people were aware of this? How many people were aware that the total so far for spending on C19 was at $4.2 trillion? Add that to what's been spent on Ukraine. Woo, man. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that they don't mind losing, isn't it? That number is certain to grow as investors dig deep into thousands of potential schemes. Okay. How could so much be stolen? Investigators and outside experts say the government, in seeking to quickly spend trillions in relief aid, conducted little oversight during the pandemic's early stages and instituted few restrictions on applicants. In short, to say the grift was just way too easy. Man, the C19 grift was just way too easy. I'm gonna tell you something. The C19 grift is way easier than the YouTube grift. It's way easier. I'm gonna tell you that. Shout out to my man, My Goals, over on Rumble. All right. So now here it says, here was this sort of endless pot of money that anyone could access, said Dan Frucher, chief of the fraud and white collar crime unit at the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Washington. Folks kind of fooled themselves into thinking that it was a socially acceptable thing to do, even though it wasn't legal. Now, here's my thing that's fascinating, right? Doesn't it seem like the people who are so against handouts were the main ones doing the C19 scamming? If you guys think that it was the main people that claim they don't want handouts that were doing the C19 scamming, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that, then give me a thumbs up and let me know who it was that was doing it. Who was doing it? The U.S. government has charged more than 2,230 defendants with pandemic-related fraud crimes and is still conducting thousands of investigations. Most of the looted money was swiped from 3 large pandemic relief initiatives launched during the Trump administration and inherited by President Joe Biden. These programs were designed to help small businesses and unemployed workers survive the economic upheaval caused by the pandemic. Now, how many of those businesses went out of business during the pandemic? There was a lot of businesses that failed and flopped during the pandemic, weren't there? So now, if they gave away all this money and they had all of these handouts, my question is, what happened? What happened to the businesses? The pilfering was wide, but not always as deep as the eye-catching headlines about cases involving millions of dollars. But all of the theft, big and small, illustrates an epidemic of scams and swindles at a time when America was grappling with overrun hospitals, school closures, and shuttered businesses. Since the pandemic began in early 2020, more than 1.3 million people in the United States have died from C19, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Now, here's my question for you guys. How do you guys feel about that number? You guys feel like that number is accurate, or do you think that that number may not be as accurate as Associated Press may imply that it is? Michael Horowitz, the U.S. Justice Department Inspector General, who chairs the Federal Pandemic Response Accountability Committee, told Congress the fraud is clearly in the tens of billions of dollars and may eventually exceed $100 billion. Now, let me ask you all a question. Do you think that everybody who was involved in one of these C19 scams is going to get tried or they're going to go to prison? Or do you think that this stuff is just going to get let go? What do you guys think is the fate for the perpetrators of the C19 crimes? Horowitz told the Associated Press he was sticking with that estimate, but won't be certain about the number until he gets more solid data. I'm hesitant to get too far out on how much it is, he said, but clearly it's substantial and the financial accounting is still at least a couple of years away. Mike Galdo, the U.S. Department's acting director for C19 fraud enforcement, said it's an unprecedented amount of fraud. Again, like they said here, they said that this was the greatest grift in the United States of America's history. This is the greatest grift provided by the United States government to people here in the United States. Before leaving office, former President Trump approved emergency aid measures totaling $3.2 trillion, according to figures from the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee. Biden's 2021 American Rescue Plan authorized the spending of another $1.9 trillion. About a fifth of the $5.2 trillion has yet to be paid out, according to the committee's most recent accounting. So now my question is, what's going to happen with that $5.2 trillion? What's going to happen with it? That's wild, isn't it? Never has so much federal emergency aid been injected into the U.S. economy so quickly. The largest rescue package in American history, U.S. Comptroller Gene Dodaro told Congress. The enormous scale of that package has obscured multi-billion-dollar mistakes. Multi-billion-dollar mistakes. All right, so we're past the fraud, okay, because there was rampant fraud when it comes to this. But now we're into the realm of incompetencies and mistakes. Shout out to my man Bronze of God. My man Bronze of God said, I'm surprised I got the notification for this. It's been so long. Like Mystical. Been so long. You know what I'm saying? If you guys could do the survey about the notifications that's pinned in the chat, that would be great. And also for the notifications, to make sure that you guys are getting all of the notifications, make sure that you join the Discord. You're also able to chat while not live during in the Discord. So make sure you guys check that out. Carlton said they can reallocate the remaining funds to our reparations payment. I bet you they would rather lose them. They'd rather put that money into a trash incinerator than spend it on reparations. They'd rather put that money in a trash incinerator than spend it on reparations. Do you know how stupid these people are? These people are more happy that the United States squandered trillions of dollars than if they had have actually put it back into the American economy by paying reparations. So these are people, you got to understand that these are people of an illogical nature that are more satisfied and more happy with cutting their nose off, because most of them have plenty to spare anyway, to spite their face. An $837 billion IRS program, for example, succeeded 99% of the time in getting economic stimulus checks to the proper taxpayers, according to the tax agency. Nevertheless, that 1% failure rate translated into nearly $8 billion going to ineligible individuals, a Treasury Department inspector told Associated Press. So they accidentally paid $8 billion to individuals that were not eligible for funding. What do you guys think about that? Do you all think that this was a good, efficient way to spend money? Do you all feel that the C19 spending was effective and well planned and well thought out? If you guys feel like it was, give me a thumbs up. If you guys feel like it was not, give me a thumbs down. So now here it says an IRS spokesman said that the agency does not agree with all the figures cited by the watchdog and noted that even if correct, the loss represented a tiny fraction of the program's budget, which it doesn't matter how much of a fraction of the program's budget it represents. The budget was huge, which means that there's a large amount of money in that tiny percentage. The program was damn near $5 trillion. And they talking about, oh, don't worry about it. It was only 1%. 1% of $5 trillion is probably more money than everybody watching this live stream has made combined up until this point in their life. That's probably close to the amount. Wouldn't you guys say? The health crisis thrust the Small Business Administration, an agency that typically gets little attention, into an unprecedented role. In the 7 decades before the pandemic struck, for example, the SBA had doled out $67 billion in disaster loans. When the pandemic struck, the agency was assigned to manage 2 massive relief efforts, the C19 Economic Injury Disaster Loan and Paycheck Protection Programs, which would swell to more than $1 trillion. Let me ask you guys a question. Were you all aware of these figures and how much money was actually being poured into these programs and then distributed to people across the United States? Now, if you were not aware, now you will know about these giant sized amounts of money. Okay. SBA's workforce had to get money out of the door fast to help struggling businesses and their employees. C19 pushed SBA's pace from a walk to an Olympic sprint. Between March of 2020 and the end of July 2020, the agency granted 3.2 million C19 economic injury disaster loans totaling $169 billion, according to an SBA Inspector General's report, while at the same time implementing the huge new Paycheck Protection Program. Remember, though, this is the same government that doesn't have any money. As long as you're aware, as long as you remember that this government is honest and true and that they don't have any money, I think everybody will be okay going forward. Sounds like they got some money to me. In the haste, guardrails to protect federal money were dropped. Prospective borrowers were allowed to self-certify their loan applications were true. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How is it that you self-certify that something is true? Aren't you supposed to get a third-party verification to certify that something is true? How is it that a self-certification is a legitimate verification? Anybody got the answer for me on that? How does that work? How does that work? Does that make any sense whatsoever? How is a self-certification a smart way to divvy out trillions of dollars? How is that? How do we come to that conclusion? And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to the 10 people that we have watching on YouTube. We got 10 people watching and we got 15 likes. If everybody could take a moment, smash that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that bell and share the stream to your social media. That would be great. Shout out to the people watching over on Rumble. We got 4 people watching on Rumble and 1 like. Let's try to get 10 likes. Make sure you guys smash that like button and hit the bell and share the stream. So now here it says the CARES Act also barred the SBA from looking at tax return transcripts that could have weeded out shady or undeserving applicants, a decision eventually reversed at the end of 2020. So now we got to ask about this, right? Didn't Joe Biden sign the CARES Act into existence? If Joe Biden signed the CARES Act into existence, give me a thumbs up. I'm pretty sure he did. If he didn't, give me a thumbs down. Why would he sign the CARES Act into existence and then bar the SBA from being able to look at tax return transcripts? Why would he have done that? Does that make any sense? So, because of the CARES Act took away one of the methods that was available to be able to verify if this was a legitimate loan application. Terrence said for Hunter, possibly. Possibly. Hunter wanted to get some of that nose candy. He wanted to get some of that booger sugar. If you open up the bank window and say, give me your application and just promise me you really are who you say you are, you attract a lot of fraudsters, and that's what happened here, Horowitz said. The SBA Inspector General's office, listen to this, the SBA Inspector General's office has estimated fraud in the C19 Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program at $86 billion and the Paycheck Protection Program at $20 billion. The watchdog is expected in coming weeks to release revised loss figures that are likely to be much higher. That's wild. Let me ask you guys a question. Have you all heard them talking about this giant loss of money in the mainstream media very much? If they've been talking about this, let me know, because I haven't heard anything. In an interview, SBA Inspector General Hannibal Mike Ware declined to say what the new fraud estimate for both programs will be. Look at this. It will be a figure that is fair, that is 1,000% defensible by my office, fully backed by our significant criminal investigative activity that is taking place in this space, Ware said. Ware and his staff are overwhelmed with pandemic-related audits and investigations. The office has a backlog of more than 80,000 actionable leads, close to 100 years of work. They're never gonna be able to charge everybody with any of this stuff. No one's gonna get in. Anybody that's left, all of the people that this article is talking about, they have effectively evaded the law, and they will be getting off scot-free. Because literally nobody is about to do all this. Nobody's doing this. Nobody is doing this. Death by 1,000 cuts might be a death by 80,000 cuts for them, Horowitz said, of Ware's workload. It's just the magnitude of it, the enormity of it. A 2022 study from the University of Texas at Austin found that almost 5 times as many suspicious paycheck protection loans as the $20 billion SBA's Inspector General had reported so far. So in 2022, a study from the University of Texas at Austin found 5 times as many suspicious paycheck protection loans as the $20 billion that the SBA Inspector General reports so far. So if we adjust that figure of $20 billion for what they found at the University of Texas, what does that put the estimate at? Shout out to my man Speaks Facts Podcast. What does that put the estimate at? Damn. The research led by finance professor John Griffin found as much as $117 billion in questionable and possibly fraudulent loans, citing indicators such as non-registered businesses and multiple loans to the same address. And there was no red flags that occurred. None. They just kept sending out money. No red flags. Just keep sending the money. Make it make sense. Somebody make it make sense. Horowitz, the pandemic watchdog chairman, criticized the government's failure early on to use the Do Not Pay Treasury Department database designed to keep government money from going to debarred contractors, fugitives, felons, or people convicted of tax fraud. Those reviews, he said, could have been done quickly. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Now, here's another thing, right? Let me ask you guys a question. Is all of this money that has been lost, are these taxpayer dollars? Are these your hard-earned taxpayer dollars that you see circling the whirlpool before the toilet drains? I'm pretty sure we all paid into that. Now, as much as people are upset about the potential of what could happen with taxpayer dollars, my question is, why don't you hear very much outrage about what actually is happening with taxpayer dollars? Because, see, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. This has already been paid. And you don't hear many people belly aching about this. Reparations is only in talks, and people are fighting tooth and nail. What does that tell you about how people are fighting tooth and nail over something that's not even been paid yet versus blatantly ignoring what already has been paid? What does that tell you about those people? See, that's the question. We got to do a outrage measurement because we're dealing with people that like to remain in a state of outrage. So you're outraged about money that has yet to be spent while you sit there and ignore money that has been spent. Not only money that has been spent, money that has been spent fraudulently and was completely mismanaged by the elected government that those people put into place. And yet they have no accountability. Yeah, I agree. If you guys agree with Carlton, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. I agree 110%, and that's just more evidence. The selective outrage. People are more angry. There. Shout out to shout out to the people on Rumble. There's people that are more angry about Juneteenth than they are about $100 trillion in C19 money going down the toilet. Those high IQ folks. It's a false narrative that has been set out that there are only two choices, Horowitz said. One choice is get the money out the right way. And the other choice was to spend weeks and months trying to figure out who was entitled to it. In less than a few days. Now, check this out. Check. I want you guys to understand something. The California Reparations Task Force has a more stringent requirement and a more stringent streamlined assignment of who would be eligible for reparations than what the government had when they gave out billions of dollars and wasted C19 money. As you can see here, there was no criteria for any of this, and they let people self-certify. Now, what about that? Oh, that's because it was an emergency situation. Hey, reparations is an emergency situation. Shout out to My Goals over on Rumble. My Goals says America is telling us that they don't want us here. Facts. And my thing, how I feel about it is, since they don't want us here, we should extract the optimal amount of our dollars out of the economy. Since they don't want us, then they don't want our patronage. The main point of these articles here is the fact that there was literally no criteria for receiving this money. They had no screening process whatsoever. Would you guys agree? If you guys agree, they had virtually no screening process, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree and you feel that they did have a screening process, give me a thumbs up. And for those people who say, no, Rob, they had a screening process. That screening process was put your hands out and they put money in your hands. Okay, I'll give you that. I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you. I'd have to agree there. Now, how many videos have we seen where we see these people on Fox crying? Ain't that not fair? Ain't that not fair that only black people gonna get reparations? Ain't that not fair? Let me ask you guys a question. Did you see any videos talking about it's just not fair that they just handing COVID money to everybody? I mean, you would think that they'd be outraged about just handing COVID money to everybody frivolously without qualifying criteria. But again, you should never have the expectation of anything making logical sense, because that's not the point of this. It's not the point of the propaganda. It's not the point of the media. It's not the point of anything that's done. Shout out to my man We Lit. What's good with it, bro? Yeah, that's what they said. It's not fair. They're giving people money because of their skin color. Nobody's getting any money because of their skin color. This was supposed to be based on financial strain as a result of a pandemic. They didn't even require people to show C19 tests to get any of this money. You know what I'm saying? In less than a few days, a week at most, Horowitz said SBA might have discovered thousands of ineligible applicants. 24 hours, 48 hours, would that really have upended the program, Horowitz said? I don't think it would have. And it was data sitting right there. It didn't get checked. So let me ask you guys a question. What kind of consequence should the government face for this mishandling of trillions of dollars? Because it is in the trillions, right? We've already gone through it. It is in the trillions. So what should the consequence be for the government for the mishandling of all this money? Because they could have used this money elsewhere. We already gave a suggestion of where the money could have been used at. The Biden administration put in stricter rules to stem pandemic fraud, including use of the Do Not Pay database. Biden also recently proposed a $1.6 billion plan. Look at it. I want you guys to pay attention to this. Biden also recently proposed a $1.6 billion plan to boost law enforcement efforts to go after pandemic relief fraudsters. Shout out to my man Jared. What's good with it, bro? Now, how many people knew about that? I think that might have something to do with all of those. I think that might have something to do with those IRS agents that they had planned on hiring, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, I think that has to do with those IRS agents that they had planned on hiring. I think the bottom line is, regardless of what the number is, it emanates overwhelmingly from 3 programs that were designed and originated in 2020 with too many large holes that opened up the door for criminal fraud. Gene Sperling, the White House American Rescue Plan coordinator, said in an interview, "We came into office when the largest amounts of fraud were already out of the barn," Sperling added. In a statement, an SBA spokesperson declined to say whether the agency agrees with the figures issued by Ware's office, saying the federal government has not developed an accepted system for assessing fraud in government programs. Previous analysis have pointed to potential fraud or fraud indicators in a manner that conveys those numbers as true fraud estimates when they are not, according to the statement. Regardless, there's too much money being wasted here. How many people have heard of the YouTube channel called It's Jimmy? I know We Lit has, because he's the one that told me about it. Anybody ever heard of the YouTube channel called It's Jimmy? If you've heard of that YouTube channel called It's Jimmy, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you guys haven't, give me a thumbs down. If I'm not mistaken, he started his channel out talking about C19 loans. And I guess he's talking about politics now. I subscribe to the channel. I gotta check out the videos and see what he's talking about. I think, how many subscribers do that channel got? We Lit. I think it got like what? Like close to 400,000? Or actually it probably got over 400,000. It's crazy how these channels be huge and people don't be hearing about them. But that's YouTube though. It's a lot of channels on YouTube. I be coming across people that got like 1 million subscribers every day, and I ain't never heard of these people. Like, man, who are these people? Where they come from? I'll tell you where It's Jimmy came from. He came from the same place me and We Lit came from. Dude went to our high school. But he was talking about those PPP loans and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says Han Nigan, a spokesman for the SBA, said Monday that the vast majority of the likely fraud originated in the first 9 months of the pandemic programs under the Trump administration. So, as you guys can see, what they're doing here is they're trying to position the loss of all of these C19 funds on the Trump administration. So what they're doing is they're politicizing the grifting. Sharon said, that's exactly what I'll be saying. Who are these clowns? Yeah, I'll be like, who are these people? I don't know what Jimmy be talking about on YouTube as far as his new content post pandemic, but he was all right in high school. He was cool. You know what I'm saying, he was a cool dude. State champion wrestler, hard worker. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no complaints about Jimmy. Jimmy was cool. He was always a hustler, man. He was a hustler. It's a YouTube channel where they were talking about pandemic loans. I think he was keeping track of the pandemic loans. I guess during facts, grifted the whole man shot. Look, ever since the internet came out, this dude named Jimmy that runs that channel, he's grifted the internet to the maximum capacity, man. My cousin used to this is a dude that was an 18-year-old millionaire from hustling on the internet when the internet first came out. My cousin used to do DJ he used to DJ his mansion parties because, oh boy, when we was all freshmen in college, he didn't go to college and had a damn mansion. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, facts. We listen. He didn't just grift the whole pandemic. This fool grifted the whole internet era. You know what I'm saying? When internet came out, it was a wrap. He went all the way up. I ain't mad at it. Grift set. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says for the C19 economic injury disaster program. Look at this. Nigan said SBA's working estimate found $28 billion in likely fraud. Lit said he bought the house next to his parents' legend. I bet. Remember he had that mansion in Hudson? Man, that's crazy. That's crazy, bro. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says the coronavirus pandemic plunged the U.S. economy into a short but devastating recession. I don't know if I would call it a short but devastating recession. If you ask me, we're still dealing with a lot of those monetary issues from the recession. And then right after that happened, and as things were beginning to stabilize, there was the Ukraine situation. And the Ukraine situation threw the economy right back into a bad place. Shout out to my man iShine. What's good with it? Would you guys agree? And then Joe Biden was going around calling it Putin's price hikes, when we all know that it wasn't necessarily Putin's price hikes. That's not exactly what happened. You know what I'm saying? Jobless rates soared into a double digit, and Washington sent hundreds of billions of dollars to states to help the suddenly unemployed. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Out of all of these hundreds of billions of dollars that Washington sent to these states to allegedly help these unemployment situations, how much of it do you all think actually went towards helping people who needed the money? How much of it do y'all think went towards helping people that actually needed the money? For crooks, it was like tossing chum into the sea to lure fish. Many of these state unemployment agencies use adequate computer systems or had too few staff to stop bogus claims from being paid. So I mean, like, my thing is, man, like, people were just going to this COVID-19 fund like it was a damn buffet table. And then not only was they going to the C19 fund like it was a buffet table, they were getting seconds. And in addition to getting seconds, they were packing up doggy bags to go. Bro, this dude, yeah, facts. We lit an internet grift. Like, this dude is Super Saiyan level internet. I'm telling you, homeboy was an immediate millionaire after high school when the internet first came out. I'm dead serious. Never seen anything like it in my life. and we lit grew up with me. He from the same hood as I am, went to the same high school. He know exactly who I'm talking about. I am not lying. My in college, when we was freshmen in college, my cousin used to make side money DJing parties at his mansion. That it was wild. Shout out to the class of 99. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, yes, the states were overwhelmed in terms of demand, said Brent Parton, acting assistant secretary of the U.S. Labor Department's Employment and Training Administration. We had not seen a spike like this ever in a global event like a pandemic. The systems were underfunded. So now my thing is, if the systems were underfunded, why did they pay out all that damn money? Why didn't they take some of that money from the funding and then put it back into the security systems? Right, real shit. he broke everybody off. Look, he broke everybody off, bro. He broke my little clique that I used to hang out with off. He broke his homeboy off. You know who I'm talking about. Everybody got broke off. That man, between 1999 and like 2002 was wild as hell. $1999 to 2002 was wild as hell. All I gotta say is, I wonder. I bet you Torian know about this. Yo, Torian, do you remember that thing called alladvantage.com way back in the day? How many people remember alladvantage.com? It was that little search bar thing that you download onto the computer, and like, I don't know what it would be doing. It'd probably be stealing all your information in the background. But then after you like generated a certain amount of engagement, it would send you money. Do you remember that? Do you guys remember that? A lot of people had that in college because the money would come in clutch. Yo, I'm telling you, we got put onto game onto how to make dough from that. We got put onto the game. That's a man. Jared said he was in grade school back then. Man, you got me feeling old as hell. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah, bro. I don't even think they had like, that was like when the Motorola Razor phone was popping. They didn't even have like pictures on the phones or nothing like that back then. You know what I'm saying? That was when they still had the dial-up internet. They had like prodigy.net. You know what I'm saying? Yahoo had their own internet service. That's when you had to dial into the internet. This broadband and coaxial and all that was unheard of. You know what I'm saying? We had analog phones back then. We didn't have no digital phones. I had a Motorola V90. I ain't gonna lie though, the Motorola V90, that was my favorite phone. Even compared to the phones that they got now. I love that Motorola V90. If they made a remake of the Motorola V90 updated for today, I would get one. We lit said I was in 8th grade, man. You and my brother wasn't even in y'all wasn't even in high school yet, man. That's crazy. Y'all wasn't even in high school yet, man. Y'all was in 8th grade. That's wild. So now here it says, look, hey, fraud in pandemic unemployment assistance program stands at $76 billion. Torian said, "Did you have a Boost Mobile chirp?" Nah, When I was that age, I had the phone company that I used to have ain't even around no more, bro. First I had a phone through AirTouch, and then AirTouch got bought out by Verizon, and I had Verizon for the longest. And I had 2 phones. My other phone was this company called Autel. Not them. AirTouch and Autel don't even exist no more. They got swallowed up. I think Verizon bought both of them. I think Verizon bought Autel and Verizon bought AirTouch. Fraud in the pandemic unemployment assistance program stands at $76 billion. Now, here's my question, right? When we're having these reparations conversations, and when people are looking for reference information about how the United States of America chooses to spend its money, my question is, why is it that the amount of money wasted doesn't really come up in conversation very often? Don't you guys think that would be a good thing? Speak Facts said you old talking about Autel. Yeah, bro. Man, Autel used to be the look where me and we live. Autel used to be the landline phone company. Autel used to be the landline phone company, man. Before they had cell phones. They had North Coast PCS. Facts. North Coast, that's some Ohio stuff right there. North Coast PCS, they probably don't even know about no damn North Coast PCS. That's like that's strictly North Coast PCS is strictly Ohio like pop. Well, it's like instead of saying roof, you know what I'm saying? Like I say roof. You know what I'm saying? Like a damn dog. So now here it says that's a conservative estimate. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Are y'all adding these numbers up? Another $115 billion mistakenly went to people who should not have received the benefits, according to his testimony. So 76 billion was frauded. Okay. There was fraudulent transactions of 76 billion. 115 billion mistakenly went to people who should not have received the benefits. Here's my question. How are you okay with making these kind of mistakes, giving out this kind of money? How is that okay? Turner declined AP's request for an interview. Turner's task in identifying all of the pandemic unemployment insurance fraud has been complicated by a lack of cooperation from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, according to September's alert memo issued by his office. Scam artists use social security numbers of federal prisoners to steal millions of dollars in benefits. Now, here's my question. How did they even get the prisoners' social security numbers? How did they get their social security numbers? I believe I agree. If you guys agree with, hey, Mr. Knickerbocker, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker says because the majority of the fraud was large corporations and it Operation Protect the White Guys. Facts. If you guys agree, throw them thumbs up. If you guys disagree, put them thumbs down. I agree. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this right here. His office still doesn't know exactly how much was swiped that way. So all of these are estimates, and from what it looks like, these are low-end estimates. Shout out to Keldrick. What's good with it, bro? These are low-end estimates. The Prison Bureau had declined to provide current data about federal prisoners. The AP reached out to the Bureau several times for comment starting June 2nd. Bureau spokesperson Emery Nelson said on Monday that the agency had provided in February and March all the necessary data to the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee. Turner is a member of the committee. Ohio State Auditor Keith Faber saw trouble coming when safeguards to ensure the unemployment aid went only to people who legitimately were qualified were lowered, making conditions ripe for fraud and waste. So now here's my question. Why is it that the people who are so concerned about handouts weren't concerned about making sure that the handouts went to the appropriate people? Carlton says some prisoners were in on the scam too. I believe it. Remember Raekwon, like a 27-inch Zenith. Believe it. The state's unemployment agency took controls down because on one hand, they literally were drinking from a fire hose, Faber said. They had a year's worth of claims in a couple weeks. The second part of the problem was the federal government directed them to get the money out the door as quickly as possible and worry less about security. They took that to heart. I think that that was a mistake. Now, what I find fascinating is they sure as hell don't have that policy with reparations, do they? And they know exactly who would be getting reparations. They know exactly who would be getting reparations, and they don't have that policy with that. So the whole point of this, right? This is the point. The government will waste money at its will. It'll waste money before it does anything to make anything right. They will burn up money right in front of your face. Ohio's Department of Job and Family Services reported in February $1 billion in fraudulent pandemic unemployment claims and another $4.8 billion in overpayments. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think that it's a coincidence that the payments were overpayments? That's kind of an interesting anomaly. Why do you think that the overpayments are more than the unemployment payments? That's kind of weird, isn't it? I mean, they overpaid that damn much and they didn't realize it? Seriously? How's that happen? Make that make sense. The ubiquitous masks that became a symbol of the C19 pandemic are seen on fewer and fewer faces. Hospitalizations for the virus have steadily declined, according to CDC data, and Biden in April ended the national emergency response to the pandemic. But on politically divided Capitol Hill, lawmakers have not put the pandemic behind them and are engaged in fierce debate over the success of the relief spending and who's to blame for the theft. I mean, I ain't trying to be funny, but it would seem to me that the entire government and the thieves would be the people to blame for the theft. It doesn't seem like that's a mystery, does it? It doesn't seem like that's a mystery, does it? That seems pretty common sense. It's pretty common sense. Too much government money, Republicans argue, breeds fraud, waste, and inflation. Democrats have countered that all The financial muscle from Washington saved lives, businesses, and jobs. It clearly enhanced some lives too. Some people clearly was living it up during the pandemic. The GOP-led House Oversight and Accountability Committee is investigating pandemic relief spending. We must identify where this money went, how much of it ended up in the hands of fraudsters or ineligible participants, and what should be done to ensure that it never happens again. I don't know. Do everything opposite of what you did this time would probably be a start. I mean, that would probably be a good place to start, wouldn't it? Torian said Gavin Newsom was out here living it up, and then he turned around and got caught. Gavin Newsom was living it up, and then he turned around and got caught. You know what I'm saying? Republicans and Democrats did, however, find common ground last year on bills to give the federal government more time to catch fraudsters. Biden in August signed legislation to increase the statute of limitations from 5 years to 10 years on crimes involving the two major programs managed by the SBA. The extra time will help federal prosecutors untangle pandemic fraud cases, which often involve identity theft and crooks overseas. But there's no guarantee that they'll catch everyone who jumped at the chance for an easy payday. They're too busy with crimes unrelated to pandemic relief funds. Do we have enough cases and leads that we could begin doing them in 2030? We absolutely could, said Frutcher, the federal prosecutor in the Eastern District of Washington. But my experience tells me that likely there will be other priorities that will come up and will need to be addressed. And unfortunately, in our office, we don't have a dedicated pandemic fraud unit. Now, my thing that I think is interesting is when they first started giving out the pandemic money, they should have set aside some of that money and started a pandemic fraud detection unit right then and there when they had planned on putting out all this money. Don't you guys think so? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. I mean, that would have, to me, that would have made common sense. That would have made common sense. If you plan on giving out a lot of money, you probably want to make sure that, for one, you're not getting ripped off, and for two, that is going to the people that it's supposed to go to. Those, to me, would seem like priorities. But again, that's just, to me, what it would seem like. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got 20 people watching. Shout out to all 20 people that's watching, and we got 25 likes on YouTube. If everybody could take a moment and smash that like button and share the video out, that'd be great. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Shout out to the people who are watching over on Rumble. We got 5 people watching on Rumble and 1 like. If everybody can smash the like button and share the video out, that would be great. Congress has not yet passed a measure that would give prosecutors an additional 5 years to go after unemployment fraudsters. That worries Turner, the Labor Department watchdog. Without the extension, he told Congress in late May report, people who stole benefits may escape justice. Now, if you ask me, I think that they're going to let this fly, and they're not going to add on an extra statute of limitations, because the major amount of people that they would be going after would be you-know-who. And so this ends up going from being a grift to a money grab. I think that if it was another demographic or another matrix, they would have expedited prosecutions. Shout out to my man My Goals on Rumble. My man My Goals on Rumble says, just like the crack epidemic, all black people going to jail. Yeah, I agree. But since the demographic of this isn't majority black, they're going to just let it go. They're going to do a favor. You know what I'm saying? One hand washes the other. And while we're doing that favor, those same people that received all that money will sit there and talk about some handouts. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says Spearling, the White House official, said any future crisis that requires government intervention doesn't have to be a choice between helping people in need and stopping fraudsters. The prevention strategy going forward is that in a crisis, you focus on fast delivery to people in desperate situations without feeling that you can only get that speed by taking down common sense anti-fraud guardrails, he said. Now, let me ask you all a question, all right? Because we're at the end of this article. My question is, have they ever just carelessly given money away like this before? Have you ever seen anything like this, or is this something new? Because if you ask me, this right here, this is something new. They don't usually give away money easily. Look, let me ask you guys a question. College is more important probably than these C19 fraud or than these C19 funds. Is the college application program for financial aid more or less stringent than to get a PPP loan? Yeah, that's true. The bank bailouts, that's facts. So again, they calling it the Great Grift. They calling it the Great Grift. $280 billion in C19 was stolen, and 123 billion was wasted or misspent. The combined loss represents a jarring 10% of the $4.2 trillion that the United States government dispersed in C19 relief aid. That's wild. That's wild. Mainstream media is not talking about it very much, probably because something like this is extremely embarrassing for a country that's supposed to be big, great, and efficient. Regardless of how embarrassing it is, it happened. The takeaway from this is to show what the United States is willing to waste money on, what the United States is willing to give away, and who the United States specifically doesn't want to address. If this isn't evidence of that, I don't know what is. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I'll be back a little bit later with another stream. Like I said, we're doing some marathons tonight, so hopefully I'll catch you guys. Make sure that you guys check out the Discord. Make sure that you guys check out Rumble. Make sure you guys are subbed up to all my channels. Smash that like button, hit the bell. Make sure you guys share the stream and leave comments, and I will catch you all on the next video. All right? Peace.